The bank notification arrived at 6:47 in the morning, and by 7 o'clock, Daniel Carter's entire life had collapsed into a single number, $200. That was all that remained after his ex-wife's lawyers finished dismantling everything he had spent 12 years building. The house on Maple Ridge, gone. The car he'd bought her as an anniversary gift, gone. And worst of all, the small hands that used to grip his fingers on Sunday morning walks, the daughter who called him her hero, gone too, packed into a car and driven 3 states away by a woman who had already moved on before the ink dried on the divorce papers. Daniel stood in the empty garage that had once been his auto repair shop, staring at the toolbox that was now his only inheritance from a marriage he thought would last forever. Diana had taken everything the courts would allow and used every dollar Richard Hargrove's family attorneys could leverage against him. She had never loved him, not really. She had loved what he might become, and when he stopped becoming it fast enough, she found someone who already had. His daughter's photograph was still tucked in his wallet, her 7-year-old smile frozen in a school picture, the only piece of her he could carry with him now that visitation was reduced to supervised weekends he had to fight for every single month. If this story of loss, resilience, and quiet determination is already touching something inside you, take a moment now to like this video, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from, share it with someone who needs a reminder that second chances are real, and subscribe to Kindness Corner, because we believe every broken beginning deserves a powerful ending. That first night alone, Daniel slept on a cot in the back of the garage because he couldn't afford anything else. The $200 in his account had to stretch across rent, food, and the tools he needed to keep working. He was a mechanic by trade, gifted with engines in a way most people were gifted with words, but a gift means nothing when nobody knows your name and nobody trusts a man who just lost everything. He picked up odd jobs, fixing neighbors' cars for cash in parking lots, sleeping 4 hours a night, eating nothing but bread and peanut butter for weeks at a time. There were moments, dark ones, when he sat in that empty garage and wondered if it would have been easier to simply disappear, to let the weight crush him the way everyone expected it to. But then he would open his wallet and look at his daughter's photograph, and something in his chest would tighten and refuse to let go. He remembered her voice asking him why the sky was blue, why leaves changed color, why he had to work so much. He remembered promising her, without ever saying the words out loud, that he would never let her grow up believing her father was a man who quit. That promise became the only fuel he had left, and it turned out to be enough to keep the engine of his life running on fumes. Word started to spread slowly through the town that there was a mechanic who didn't just fix cars, he understood them, spoke to them almost like old friends, diagnosed problems other shops missed for weeks. A single garage bay became two. Two became a small crew of loyal workers who believed in him before anyone else did. He named the shop after the one thing he refused to lose, Carter Auto Repair, honest work, fair prices, a simple sign hand-painted because he couldn't afford anything fancier. Every dollar he earned above survival went back into the business, and every dollar after that went into a lawyer who could fight for more time with his daughter. 3 years of relentless work turned one garage into a regional chain of repair shops known for treating customers like family. Daniel started training young mechanics who reminded him of himself, kids who had nothing but hunger and a willingness to work, and he gave them what nobody had given him, a real chance. His reputation as a boss who paid fairly and taught patiently began attracting attention outside the automotive world entirely. Investors noticed a business built on trust rather than shortcuts, and trust, it turned out, scaled in ways that greed never could. What started as auto repair evolved into an empire touching logistics, fleet management, and eventually a chain of service centers across the entire region. Through it all, Daniel never stopped fighting to see his daughter. The custody battles were brutal, expensive, and emotionally exhausting, especially when Diana's new husband tried to convince the courts that a man who had once been broke could never provide real stability. But Daniel showed up to every hearing, every scheduled visit, every recital and school event he was legally allowed to attend, even when it meant driving through the night after a 16-hour workday. He never missed a single moment he was permitted to have, and slowly, the courts began to see what his daughter had always known deep down. That her father's love had never wavered, not for a single second, regardless of what his bank account said. By the time his daughter turned 12, Daniel Carter's name appeared on the cover of a business magazine, his story told as a case study in resilience and honest leadership. Forbes recognized him among rising entrepreneurs who built something real from nothing, and reporters loved to ask him about the $200 beginning, the empty garage, the cot he slept on that first brutal night. But Daniel always redirected the conversation back to the only thing that ever truly mattered to him. He would tell them that success without his daughter in his life would have meant nothing at all, that every contract signed and every shop opened was simply a way of proving to a 7-year-old girl that her father would never, under any circumstances, give up on her. The day custody finally shifted, the day the courts recognized the stability and unwavering devotion he had built brick by brick, Daniel drove to pick her up himself instead of sending a car. She ran to him across the driveway the way she used to when she was small, and even though she was taller now, nearly a teenager, the hug felt exactly the same as it had all those years ago. He held her the way a man holds the one thing that gave his suffering meaning, and for the first time in over a decade, he let himself cry in front of her, not from pain, but from a relief so deep it felt like breathing after years underwater. Before we reach the end of this story, if it has moved something inside you, take a moment to comment the word, never, if you believe some people are simply built to rise no matter how far they fall. Daniel Carter's story wasn't about revenge, and it wasn't about proving anyone wrong. It was about a father who refused to let $200 and a broken heart define the rest of his life, who turned every locked door into another reason to build his own. Today, his daughter works alongside him, learning the business her father built from nothing but grit and love, and every single day they walk into that first garage together, now preserved as a memorial to where it all began, a reminder that empires are built not from money, but from the refusal to give up on the people who matter most. If this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who might need this message today, and subscribe to Kindness Corner so you never miss another story about second chances, quiet strength, and the belief that it is never, ever too late to rebuild everything that was taken from you.